Welcome back to Out of the Park Baseball. It is time to draft, and now and only now do we understand we cannot make any draft signings above the slot value of the pick. Full stop. Owner will not allow it. That's important to know because we will pick 6th, because we did manage to land in the lottery after a pretty poor regular season performance from us last year. And we also pick 14th, a comp pick for not signing a first-round pick in the previous draft. So just so we know, going forwards, no signings above the slot value of the pick. We've simulated the first 5 picks. It's all been prep bats, high school hitters so far, with Grady Emerson leading the way, number 1 overall, to our rival, Los Angeles Angels. I believe the best player available is this starting pitcher, Devon Bowie, who just has incredible projections as far as his projected ratings. Love the 75 control. Love the pitch mix here. 6 different pitches. That's pretty crazy. High work ethic, so that gives him a better chance to actually develop into being at least somewhat around these projections. That being said, his demand is for $11.5 million, which is well above the slot value of the pick, so we will not be drafting him because we would not be able to sign him. I'm torn between 3 guys here. One is Daniel Cuvette. I'm not entirely sure how to say that last name. He is a college bat out of the University of Miami. Doesn't project to be like an awesome third baseman by any means, not particularly rangy, but the power projection is definitely there for him. Another one would be Dorian DeVries. This is a high school hitter, right-handed outfielder, good defensive rating, 75 projected power. This avoid case scares me. Don't want to end up in a Joshua Mears situation. The best player is probably Chris Greer, another high school bat. Don't love that he's lefty because we have just so many left-handed hitting outfielders. It's insane. But I mean, these are really balanced as far as his hitting profile, still with 65 power, high work ethic. I'm going to click meet demand here instead of draft player so I can at least remember what his demand was. And maybe we'll save some money that way because we're drafting well under the slot value of our pick. So moving on to our second pick, which is the 14th pick overall in the draft, the Pirates ended up with Devon Bowie, who I said was the best player available, but we couldn't afford him, so we'll see if the Pirates can sign him. The decision is already kind of made for us. The slot value for this pick is around $6 million, which would make it difficult to sign DeVries, and this is a comp pick, so I wouldn't be able to get a comp pick in return. So, pretty obvious answer here. I'm going to sign Daniel Cuvette. By that I mean draft, I suppose. And he is the college third baseman, although he may project more as a first baseman. We'll see. But out of the University of Miami, he will be our second first-round pick. Second round here, I'm going to pick Eric Segura, who is a college pitcher out of Oregon State, 3-pitch mix. I like his projections as far as stuff, movement, and control. He's also high intelligence, which hopefully will aid in his development. Meet demand. Third round here, I've got my eyes on Hunter Dietz, a lefty, also a college pitcher out of the University of Arkansas, also a 3-pitch mix, high work ethic, and we're looking for control guys. We like control guys. Give me Hunter Dietz. This is our second pick in the third round. It is also a comp pick. We'll be drafting Eric Palmer, a right-handed outfielder with some good power projection. He's only 17, so it's going to be a long time to develop. Given the length of this series, we're probably not going to see it. I understand that, but that's who I'm going to draft, Eric Palmer. Fourth round here, a lot of the guys I shortlisted for around this range have gone, so I'm going to kind of wing it here. I'm going to draft Brayton Holcomb, who is a power bat first baseman type out of Vanderbilt. So, Brayton Holcomb. That's a very Vanderbilt name. And in the fifth round here, I'll draft another outfielder. This one, a high schooler, 70 outfield range. I mean, I know. I'm beating this drum every time, but 70 outfield range is 70 outfield range. Oh, his demand is way higher than I can afford. Okay, let's not do that. How about a switch-hitting middle infielder named Steven Milam again? Out of LSU. I think we've drafted some LSU guys already. All right, I'm going to finish up the draft, and then we will go to the signing negotiations. All right, we have finished our draft, and negotiations will be pretty simple. We're either meeting the demand or we're offering the slot value of the pick. That's all we can do, really. It is July 14th. We're getting close to the All-Star break, and we have been on a really rough stretch. Since June 24th, we have won 4 games, and we've lost a lot more than 4 games. We are continuing just an awful July, just a horrendous July. Zach Jackson, tired arm, out 2 to 3 weeks. That hurts too. He's been actually in our closer role or closer equivalent. We'll probably call up Zach Brixey in a corresponding move. Actually, I'm going to go with Freddie Tarnok just because he's been doing extremely well at the AAA level, and sometimes you just try to play the hot hand. Well, we've reached the All-Star break with a 42-56 record. We are 16 games behind Seattle for the division lead. And as you can see, we're playing 500-ish ball the first 3 months. And in July, we have just completely fallen apart. We're 3-14. The team still has not hit at all whatsoever. And the pitching has regressed so that we have more average pitching, at least in terms of our starter and bullpen ERA. All-Star Game rosters have been announced. Our lone representative will be our ace, Mr. J.P. Sears, who has had an excellent season so far. Looks like Garrett Cole will be starting the All-Star Game for the American League. Looking to see who here is having an absolutely massive season. Andres Jimenez batting .333, and when you're getting that sort of offensive output from someone with his, base running and defensive chops, that is a big value player. Jackson Holliday also pacing for a 7.5 WAR season. Julio having a big year as well. Could he be going for back-to-back MVPs? We'll see. In the National League, the starting pitcher will be Max Fried, although his ERA is not that great. It's a 4.32. That's a little bit below his standards. And as far as who's having a massive season in the National League, it's definitely Corbin Carroll. Corbin Carroll is batting .396 right now, OPSing over 1,100, pacing for almost 6 WAR. I mean, is this a 400 watch? If you make it to the All-Star break and you're batting .396, that is pretty insane. Also on pace for 62 stolen bases. Moving into the second half here, I think it's safe to say we'll be a selling team. We've just got about a week until the deadline. And the player that we will be receiving the most calls about, without a doubt, is Walker Buehler. We have rehabbed him. He's looking pretty good in his second season, pacing for 210 innings pitched, pacing for a 5 WAR season. His ERA does not tell the full story here. I mean, look at these ratings. He's a 3.5-star pitcher. We haven't had one of those. We haven't seen one of those. We haven't seen what a 3.5-star player is. So he is going to be a hot commodity, and hopefully we can seriously get something in return here. Another option would be Anthony Santander. His contract is expiring. His ratings have gone down. He has not necessarily performed for us. But, if we could package him with the Buehler trade, for example, then we might be able to get something out of that too. And look at this little jerk, Anthony Santander. 3 days before the trade deadline, chronic back soreness, a 4-week injury. You little jerk, Anthony Santander. One of my favorite players in real life, by the way, but a disappointment for me in OOTP with the Oakland A's. It is July 30th. The trade deadline is tomorrow. This will be Walker Buehler's final start. Please don't get hurt. Please don't get hurt. Please don't get hurt. He's good. Allowed 5 runs. We lost. Don't care. Let's trade him. We're going to start with a more minor trade. We're going to trade Nick Allen, an OG Oakland A. Don't love to do that. His ratings have come up some. Like, he's a 2.5-star now. His contact is a 60. He hasn't performed well for us this year, but, in general, he's been our utility infielder type guy. We'll also be trading Henry Bolt, who is a prospect we've followed, having a good year in high A at the age of 22, about to be 23. That said, I look at his projected ratings and I see he doesn't hit well enough to be a corner outfielder and he doesn't defend well enough to be a center fielder. So I don't really think he has a place. In return, we'll get Joey Ortiz, who this is the first time we've tried this, but could be our answer longish term at shortstop. The 75 infield range is the key rating right here, 70 rated at shortstop. We like that a lot. He has an injury, a strained back. We'll just have to see how that, hopefully we get him back in the lineup soon. But in between then, we will have Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who's just a guy they signed on a minor league deal, will be a free agent after this year, but, can also play shortstop. So he, replaces basically the Nick Allen role, if that makes sense. And Matthew Wood is, catching organizational depth at best. So we are going to head and complete this trade. John Daniels says, I'm not leaning for or against it. I am leaning for it. And this is the big doozy. We're trading away Walker Buehler. His contract is expiring. We've looked at the idea of offering him an extension. Way too much money. We do not have that in the budget, so it's the obvious move to trade Walker Buehler. The Orioles really, really wanted him. We're going to get in return DL Hall, who I think we can actually just chuck in the rotation. And they're also going to give us some young international free agent signings. This is Ernesto Correas, a contact-oriented outfielder, and David Kavina, a third baseman. So this is a total no-brainer trade for us. I think it's going to help a lot in the long term, and it'll help free up some cash because we have a little bit of a budget crunch coming up as well. So we'll go ahead and complete this trade. DL Hall definitely being the centerpiece. Here's our top prospects list. It includes the Colombian catcher Luis Castellanos, a power hitter who is ranked number 15th among all prospects in Major League Baseball. This is good. One of our goals was to develop a top 20 prospect. We have one of those. We gave him our entire budget, but we have one of those. I've thought about graduating him and having him play, in the Dominican League, but his ratings are just still kind of borderline for me. I don't like that 20 contact, so I'll probably wait until he's 17 rather than 16. A couple injuries. Julio Canete, who was a scouting discovery, he has a fractured elbow, out 7 to 8 months. His ratings have kind of come down as most likely a result of that injury at the very least. Moving up the system here, we do have one player that got promoted from this. As you can see, we have many in rookie ball. We're a very young system, but we do have one player that was promoted to full season A ball and will finish in full season A ball to end the year. That's Terrence Keel, who is our 2024 second rounder, good defensive outfielder. The ratings, though, hitting wise, not looking great. He may, lose his special prospect status, and I may let the CPU handle him. Ronnie Green's been an interesting one for me to follow. He was our 2024 fourth rounder. That was the first draft we did. His ratings don't say he should necessarily be able to do this in high A to me, but he's just absolutely crushing high A, and so we went ahead and moved him to double A, so he gets the promotion to double A. Don't know what his future would look like with the team necessarily with those ratings. Also in double A is Devin Taylor, and he is killing it. He was our 2025 first rounder. I think he was picked 5th overall. He's the number 60 prospect in Major League Baseball. And thought about promoting him to triple A, but I'm going to leave him in double A. He'll finish the year in double A. And then we've got a couple guys in AAA as well. Enrique Bradfield's down there. He made his debut in the majors. Brock Jones is down there. He's hitting like this. Not amazing. And then Zach Brixey, made our opening day bullpen, but we sent him back down. And he's been doing all right in AAA since. We may see him come back up before the year's over, especially if there's some sort of injury in the bullpen. Anthony, I now know his last name is pronounced Sigler. I didn't know this guy was like kind of a big deal. Like he was a Yankees first round draft pick, and he had like kind of viral videos where he was playing like every position. I didn't know this about him. I wasn't quite paying attention to the draft back then, but he's 27. And even though he's on my prospect list, he's basically, organizational depth at this point. But and this also includes our new draftees like Chris Greer. All my draftees signed. So that's your prospect check-in. Let's continue with the season. August 8th, we're 47 and 64. Denzel Clark with a 1-week injury. We're adding him to the injured list. We're still awaiting Joey Ortiz, who has a strained back with an uncertain return date. 7 days left on his IL time, so he won't be able to come back till at least then. Going to do what we did last time this happened and bring up Enrique Bradfield Jr. and arrange like we did last time. And Enrique Bradfield Jr. has a 5-week elbow strain. All right. Who wants to play center field? Does anyone watching this want to play center field for me? I guess I'll take this opportunity to debut Brock Jones. Welcome to the team, Brock Jones. We'll play him in center versus right-handed pitching, and we'll bring in Lazarito versus left-handed pitching in center. So Freddie Tarnok, who we brought up, has not been good for us in the bullpen. It's only 5 1/3 innings, but he's allowed 11 runs. He's allowed 2 home runs. You can see these ratios in strikeouts and walks. It's not looking good. He is an OG Oakland A, though, so unfortunately, with him being out of options, I can't just go ahead and demote him. So I'm going to have to waive and DFA, because I would like to get Zach Brixey back in the bullpen here. As of August 15th, Joey Ortiz is finally ready to play for us. He was one of our big trade deadline acquisitions, so we can send down Drew Swift. And this is the first time we've had a shortstop who isn't necessarily a stopgap. So I'd be interested to see how will we do is this last month and a half. Will we feel confident about Joey Ortiz being our shortstop in 2027? It's time for us to find out. And speaking of trade deadline acquisitions, DL Hall with an absolute gem for us in his third game. 1 hit and 1 walk versus the Marlins. No runs allowed in 7 innings, 11 strikeouts, and a 1-0 win. Denzel Clark's ready to come back. That's good. That means Brock Jones goes down. Only got into 4 games, but did collect his first couple major league hits as well as his first RBI. August 22nd, we are 52 and 70. Just, we've been really stinky since about June or July. But yeah, I'm going to bring Santander back in. He is healthy now, and we will have the closest thing we've had to a full-strength lineup in a while. All right, we've hit September. It's kind of the same story as usual with us. We don't score runs, and I know we play in like what the game rates as a serious pitcher's park, but we don't really score runs, and we do our best not to allow them. We're second in terms of the important defensive stats. That's efficiency and zone rating, but I'd like to be first, if anything. 56 and 76, and it's time for roster expansion. I'm going to bring up Joey Loperfido, who has been up and down for us all year. And then for another pitcher, I'll do Ken Waldichuk. September 10th, we're 59 and 81. We have clinched that there will not be a winning season yet again in Oakland. Braxton Ashcraft with a moderate injury day-to-day. No need to risk it. He'd been hot lately. He'd actually had some really good starts for us. You can see right here for a stretch. But no need to risk it. No need to risk a minor injury turning into a major one. We're going to put him on the IL and probably put Gibson Long back in the rotation and grab another bullpen piece. September 22nd, 63 and 87. We've been officially eliminated from any sort of playoff contention. And Shea Langeliers has a fractured finger that'll end his season, but he had a great season yet again. This is another really good season for Shea Langeliers, and I'm glad I've kept him around so far. Unfortunately for Anthony Sigler, he has an injury of his own, so we're going to use this as an excuse to just bring up Silas Ardoin. He's someone who's kind of lost his interesting prospect status with us, but it's good to get someone we've traded for in the big leagues again, you know? And it's an easy platoon because Reese McGuire, our backup catcher, bats left-handed, so he will face right-handed pitching, and Ardoin will face left-handed pitching, although certainly not batting cleanup. We're going to move him down for sure. And while we've had the injuries stack up, they're mostly minor injuries, but we do have Matt Chapman injured with diagnosis pending. Often we find those can be longer-term injuries, so we're right here at the end of the season. Let's hope it's not too bad. Okay, intercostal 3 weeks. I mean, that ends his season, but we can put Geloff back in as third base for now, so that's an easy fix for us. Here are Geloff's stats for the year. He's been kind of a part-time player for us, and he's ended up right around replacement level. He's been most notably our DH versus left-handed pitching. As we wind down here at September 30th, you're probably most curious about the playoff picture. So in the East, it's been decided the Orioles and the Rays will both advance, although it's not quite clear who the champ will be yet, although the Orioles probably have it. Guardians have clinched the Central. They're the only playoff team from there. And the West, the Mariners have clinched. They kind of ran away with it this year. Here's what the AL wildcard picture looks like. Braves and Mets are still in a dogfight for the East, similar to last year. Cubs and Reds and Cardinals still in it in the Central. Not a great division. And Diamondbacks have clinched the playoff spot, although they have not yet clinched the division. And the Giants and Dodgers are right there, with wildcard spots. So the couple games left, the Orioles have clinched the East. The Rays will grab a wildcard spot as consolation. Rangers have clinched a wildcard spot as well. It's going to be Angels and Yankees for that third spot, with the Yankees holding the 2-game advantage right now. In the Central, the Cubs have a 2-game lead, though not clinched yet. Still a fight here in the East. And the Dodgers and Giants have clinched wildcard spots because the Diamondbacks have clinched the division. We do get a win versus Houston, which gives us 67 on the year. That's one more than we won last year. And finally, we win at Houston again. Our season ends with a 68 and 94 record. And then the standings, the Cubs do advance. They clinch the Central. And that sets up for what should be a pretty interesting playoffs. But first, for a quick season in review, when you've only got 2 bats that are around 750 OPS, you know your offense is going to struggle. But Ryan Noda was one of those. This was probably the best season he's had for us yet in a save. And Joshua Mears, he showed us a little something in the second half. Really funny, 251 strikeouts on the year in 598 plate appearances. That is pretty unbelievable to think about. But also, 32 home runs. He was a one-WAR player. He was a 102 OPS plus guy. Like, it could have been worse, Geloff was there for us. Denzel Clark continues to be one of the better players in this save, although honestly that's not saying much. Alonso struggled quite a bit, which was a disappointment. He's been kind of a disappointment throughout this save, to be honest. Matt Chapman ended the season on the injured list for us, but he was a 3-WAR player, 105 OPS plus. He was basically insanely hot in April and then not so good after April. Shea Langeliers, similar stats to Chapman. Also a pretty solid year, all things considered. Pitching-wise, J.P. Sears held down the rotation. Another good year from him. His second half was not as good as his first half, though, and he had the lowest BABIP in the league, which could be a result of some of our defense, which is good. Brady Basso had probably his worst year in an Oakland A's uniform. He led the league with 16 losses, but still not terrible. Braxton Ashcraft continues to just munch on innings, 176 innings pitched, 192 last year. Hunter Brown was a nice surprise for us. I think he probably opens next year in the rotation as well. And DL Hall, who we acquired at the deadline, had a 5 ERA down the stretch, but it was more of a long-term thing for us anyways. Bullpen was all right this year. I think Ronan Kopp was definitely the highlight. We've used a variety of stoppers, so nobody collects all the saves, but I imagine he will be akin to a closer for us going into next season. Mason Miller's been kind of a disappointment, like his ERA was about 5 this year. I think a lot of people probably use him as a starter in their saves, but with his injury proneness, his fragile and 35 stamina, I just don't really think it's feasible. I think I would basically just break him. Joe Boyle finished as a middle reliever for us. He's another OG Oakland A who has been around for us for quite some time. But now it is indeed time for the playoffs, and we can begin with these wildcard series, which are a best of 3. Dodgers and Cubs. We've got all sweeps here, except for the Orioles took 3 games to knock off the Yankees, but that sets up our division series, which will be a best of 5. Early lead here for Cleveland. Cleveland are the defending World Series champs. They sweep. Mariners advance, Cubs advance, and who will advance between the Diamondbacks and Dodgers. Division rivals, it goes to a Game 5. And Dodgers advance. So that sets up our Final 4. Let's meet our Final 4. The Mariners won 99 games in our division. They have Harry Ford up, who has been, is turning into a monster player for them. They have Julio, of course, who, will be in contention for yet another MVP award. He won that last year. And, of course, the rotation. They have Kirby having a huge year. They have Castillo having a good year. 226 strikeouts, leads the American League. Bryce Miller's there. And they also have Cade Cavalli of Washington Nationals fame. Looks like they trade for him early 2025. And Munoz in the bullpen with 37 saves. That's the Mariners. They will face a Jose Ramirez and Steven Kwan-less Cleveland Guardians. Nonetheless, they are defending World Series champions, so we're seeing some new names for them here. We didn't see Mike Brasso out there for them last year. We didn't see Luke Raley out there for them last year. We certainly didn't see Sandy Alcantara. I would have noticed that, but Sandy Alcantara was traded to the Cleveland Guardians, and he has absolutely crushed it there, and he will definitely be key for them. Daniel Espino, though, and this guy is known for his nasty stuff and his fragility, has not pitched much at all. I mean, he's pitched 8 innings for them in the regular season this year, but he will be in the rotation as well, so that's kind of an interesting wrinkle. Here are the Dodgers, who did not win the division this year. They have Ha-Seong Kim leading off. That's kind of gross. They also have Kyle Isbell, who we traded to them, although honestly, he hasn't crushed it. So I don't feel too bad about that. They will not have Juan Soto. He is eligible to return after the League Championship Series, so if they advance to the World Series, he will be there. And then they have a very Japanese starting rotation with Yamamoto, the fictional Sakamoto, and of course Shohei Ohtani. Here's Shohei Ohtani stats from this year. Not a great pitching season for him necessarily, although the ratio is probably better than the ERA implies. Hitting-wise, 41 home runs, 12 stolen bases. And then finally, it's the Cubs. And the Cubs have come along because they're powered by some of their recent draftees in real life. That includes Matt Shaw. Matt Shaw is up here, although honestly, not that great numbers. Pete Crow Armstrong absolutely crushed it for them this year. Wow, a 307 average. I mean, if Pete Crow Armstrong were to hit like this in real life, it'd be unbelievable. Like, what a great player that would be. They also have, I saw Cade Horton, another big-time prospect for them in real life, 198 innings pitched for them. 177 strikeouts. That's a pretty good season. And of course, they have Brandon Woodruff, who we noted that they traded for the previous offseason. Or no, they signed him. Signed him, right? Yeah, they signed him. All right, well, let's see how these League Championship Series go. I'm curious about Los Angeles in particular because they would get Soto back were they to advance to the World Series. And they do have a 3-0 lead. Cleveland has a 3-1 lead on Seattle. And that's how it's going to set up. It's going to be Cleveland versus the Los Angeles Dodgers. Let's begin now. Where's our game? Cleveland's going to take game 1. Dodgers respond by taking game 2. Dodgers take game 3 versus the Guardians. Guardians tied up, though, 2-2. 3-2 for the Dodgers. Ooh, and it's going to go to a game 7. This is for all the marbles. Cleveland win. Cleveland go back-to-back in this series. Wow, unbelievable. Good for them. Here's your box score for Game 7. Wow, the Dodgers tied it up in the top of the ninth, only for Cleveland to walk it off in the bottom of the ninth in Game 7. Gabriel Arias was named World Series MVP. Congratulations again to the Cleveland Guardians. Let's move on with the offseason coming up next.